The first mode of inquiry we will be discussing is textual analysis as seen throughout social media. In the book Brain Rules by John Medina, Brain Rule number 9 states vision trumps all other senses. One example of the pictorial superiority effect is shown in the diagram below. When looking at the word circle and asked about it 3 days later, only 10% of people will recall that word. However, 65% of people will remember the image of a circle when asked about it 3 days later. Therefore, we can conclude social media is such a huge presence in our lives because the pictures posted are more easily remembered compared to words. Written text has evolved greatly over the years. One of the earliest known forms of a written language is cuneiform script shown in box 1. This is a system of pictographs, which is a pictorial symbol for a word or phrase. Next came the Egyptian hieroglyphs, which employ characters in the form of pictures. In box 3 is the Latin alphabet, which was a writing system originally used by the ancient Romans to write the Latin language. Emoticons were shown in box 4, and they are a pictorial representation of a facial expression using characters. Emoticons are a very common aspect in social media today. On Facebook, you can select one of 7 to react to a post or message to express how you feel about a certain topic. On Snapchat, this list shows the different ways they're used to describe your relationship with another snapper. Brain rule number 11 states male and female brains are different. The amygdala, which is the generation and memory of emotions, is larger in men's brains than in women's brains. Men are very expressive about how they feel towards different events going on in their lives on social media. On this Facebook post, Robbie Lowe, a man, expresses his devastation to hear the news that Paul Holden passed away. On yet another Facebook post, Sachin Bansal, another man, explains his sadness about leaving his job that he has worked at for 10 years. The prefrontal cortex, which is used for decision-making, is fatter in women's brains compared to men's. Women tend to think longer about captions for posts on their social media platforms. These pictures show the difference between boyfriends and girlfriends' captions of the same post on Instagram. The girlfriend's captions seem to be very thought out. This is yet another example of a social media post where the girlfriend's caption seems more thought out.
The next mode of inquiry we will examine is the historical, social, and cultural analysis. Social media is a phenomenon that has shaped our society and our culture to be the way it is today. Social media has not always been the apps and programs that we see. It has grown to be so much more from that. Way back then, a bird with a message on it could have been considered social media, but now it is within our smartphones, our computers, and it is at the tips of our fingers. The first social media website that was created was 6 Degrees. 6 Degrees is based on the theory of the 6 degrees of separation and allowed people to create an account and connect with all sorts of different people. This lasted from 1997 to 2001. This led to the birth of the blog. Blog is short for weblogging, and it was created by a man named Jorn Barger. Jorn Barger was one of the first bloggers, and he was an editor of a website called Robot Wisdom. And after that, ICQ was born, as well as AOL and AOL Instant Messaging. Around 2000, millions of people had internet access, and it was very normal for people to interact online. In 2003, MySpace was created, and it made it possible for tons of singers to share their music and become famous like Colbie Caillat. And then LinkedIn was created, and it was basically like a networking website that allowed for people, businesses, things like that to interact and network with one another. And they paved the way for things like Facebook, which emerged in 2004. When it was created, Facebook set the bar for all other social media platforms. Facebook was created by Mark Zuckerberg, and when it was created, he only created it for Harvard users to connect with one another, but he decided to issue it to the world anyway. And around 2006, Twitter was created based on how popular texting had become, because that's when smartphones, just like a handheld cell phone really, like everybody started to have one. And then texting became popular, and due to that, Twitter was created, and you could send tweets, and tweets and texting kind of sound similar, so that's where that comes from. And people could send out tweets, you could send them to your followers, and you could keep up with celebrities and things like that. And then around 2010, apps like Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest all emerged into what we have today and what we call social media.
We chose to do an experiment to get some real information and statistics from the area we live in and to see if the data relates to the information we found from online. So we went around asking students here at Western how much time they spend on their phones in a day and which social media apps they use the most.
I am on my phone about 3.5 hours a day, according to the app. My favorite app is Snapchat.
But I spend about 8 hours a day on my phone.
I usually spend about 7 hours on my phone, but today was a low day and it's about 3 hours and 30 minutes.
And according to my phone, I spend 2 hours a day on average, and my favorite social media app is probably going to be Snapchat.
I spend about 6 hours a day on my phone, and I like to spend a lot of my time texting or on Instagram.
We did some research about how much people ages 18 to 29 years old use social media, and some interesting facts we found are that 88% indicate that they use any form of social media. 51% say it would be hard to give up social media. 78% use Snapchat, and 71% visit the platform multiple times per day. 71% are Instagram users, 45% are Twitter users, and the average person spends about 8 hours and 41 minutes on their phones a day.
In terms of editing, VSCO has more of a variety of realistic filters that are more useful than Instagram's, with an option of buying even more. It has high-quality editing features because the app is, again, geared specifically toward the editing of pictures, whereas Instagram is for social purposes. While Instagram can be used to create artistic accounts, many people's main account is for the purpose of portraying that person and his or her life in a light that is socially acceptable and well-liked. For those who want to test out their creativity, being judged is not a problem because VSCO doesn't show likes, followers, or allow comments that others can see. This is a comforting feeling, especially for those who are worried that their pictures aren't up to others' standards. VSCO is a place to share all types of pictures, conveying moods, emotions, and aesthetically pleasing pictures that aren't restricted to pictures of oneself based off of societal influences. The typical pictures posted on someone's main Instagram account are influenced by the overall societal ideal of what should be posted and the social pressures of getting a lot of likes and comments. In contrast to Instagram, VSCO doesn't allow for other people to see how many reposts and favorites you have, and because it started more as a photo editing app than a social app, it is a lot more ideal for artistic creation rather than social interaction. A common VSCO feed is full of diverse, creative, artistic content, whereas an Instagram feed would be made up mostly of pictures of that person or have that person in it.
In the past day and a half, I have spent 18 hours on my phone.